Rain dripped down the neon-lit streets of Norfolk, Virginia, the kind of night when sailors and officers gathered in dim bars to wash away the tension of missions the world would never know about. The hum of laughter and clinking glasses echoed inside the Brass Anchor, a favorite hangout spot for Navy SEALs returning from deployment. At the far end of the bar sat a woman, alone, composed, and unreadable. Her name was Talia Brooks, a former Naval Intelligence officer, and one of the first black women to serve alongside a SEAL team overseas. She wasn't loud, didn't draw attention, but there was something about her posture, upright, sharp, still carrying the quiet precision of command. A group of men entered, loud, dominant, fresh from a base. One of them, wearing his captain's insignia, even off duty, drew immediate attention. Captain Greg Ralston, decorated SEAL, son of an admiral, a man who'd never been told no. He noticed Talia instantly and smirked. Within minutes, the atmosphere shifted. He approached her with the arrogance of someone used to being the center of gravity wherever he stood. "What's your call sign?" he demanded, voice dripping with mock curiosity. When she ignored him, laughter erupted from his group. Then came the flick of her wrist, and a cold splash that shattered the air. The drink soaked through her shirt, the ice cutting against her skin, the smell of liquor invading her breath. The bar went silent. Talia froze, not because of fear, but because years of control told her don't move yet. No one helped. The SEALs laughed. But that night, the night the captain humiliated a black veteran in front of his own men, would ripple across the entire naval command. Because Talia Brooks wasn't just anyone. She had once saved a mission that made headlines without her name ever being mentioned. And the man who mocked her had no idea that his career, his freedom, and his legacy were about to unravel, piece by piece, at the hands of the woman he just tried to break. Talia Brooks grew up in a small town outside Atlanta, Georgia, the daughter of a history teacher and a nurse. Her father used to tell her stories of the Tuskegee Airmen, of black soldiers who fought for a flag that didn't always fight for them. She grew up believing she could carve a place in a world that rarely opened its doors to women who looked like her. She enlisted at 20, fueled by purpose and a quiet defiance. The Navy wasn't ready for her confidence, but it couldn't deny her intelligence. She moved up fast, cryptology, linguistics, tactical analysis, the kind of roles that earn respect only when backed by results. In 2015, during an international counterterrorism operation, she was embedded with SEAL Team 9, a unit infamous for its internal rivalries and unspoken traditions. The only woman, the only black officer. She endured whispers, side glances, and the burden of proving herself twice over. But when their mission in the Red Sea went south, when communications failed and enemy vessels closed in, it was Talia who cracked the coded intercepts that guided the extraction team home. She saved 9 lives. No medals were given, only a quiet thank you behind closed doors. After that deployment, she resigned, burned out. She said she was done serving ghosts. Years later, she settled in Norfolk, teaching cybersecurity at a local university. She still carried herself like an officer, disciplined, deliberate, and detached. That night at the Brass Anchor, she had only gone to meet a colleague. She didn't know it was a SEAL's return celebration, or that the man who had just drenched her in whiskey had once signed off on her resignation papers. Captain Greg Ralston was the kind of leader who believed hierarchy was survival. His men adored him. His superiors respected him. But beneath the medals and headlines lay a rot, entitlement carved into power. He didn't recognize Talia at first. To him, she was just a woman, sitting where he wanted attention to fall. To the men watching, it was just drunk banter. To Talia, it was déjà vu, the same silence that followed every act of humiliation she'd endured in uniform. The same silence that allowed cruelty to disguise itself as camaraderie. She left the bar without a word, the cold drink still seeping through her shirt, her jaw locked tight. She didn't know it yet, but that moment, captured on someone's phone, posted to social media, which set off a chain reaction that would test the Navy's conscience and the nation's tolerance for heroes behaving like tyrants. A grainy clip, no more than 30 seconds long. The SEAL captain's laugh, the splash of the drink, the collective silence. The caption read, "SEAL captain humiliates black woman veteran at Norfolk bar. What's your call sign?" He mocks before throwing drink. At first, it spread quietly. Twitter accounts, veteran pages, whispers across forums. Then major outlets picked it up. The Navy issued a preliminary investigation statement, promising to review the incident. But the internet had already drawn its conclusions. Within 24 hours, Ralston's face was everywhere. Screenshots of him in uniform, articles celebrating his career, now contrasted with the image of him grinning mid-throw. The public was divided. Some called it cancel culture. Others called it accountability. Meanwhile, Talia refused to comment. She ignored reporters, ignored requests for interviews. But inside, something she buried years ago began to stir. The memory of being dismissed, belittled, silenced. Her old SEAL teammates reached out quietly. Some apologized. Others warned her, don't push it. The Navy protects its own. But the truth was, she didn't need to push. The damage had already begun. The Department of Defense initiated an internal ethics review. Congress members demanded a formal response. And then the classified leak happened. An anonymous source released mission records showing that during that 2015 Red Sea operation, Captain Ralston had ignored encrypted warnings that could kill the entire unit. Warnings that Talia had sent and decrypted. The logs showed that he claimed credit for her work in the after-action report. The revelation turned the story from a bar incident into a symbol of race, gender, and power inside one of America's most secretive forces. Talk shows debated it. Veterans groups divided. Hashtags like hashtag Her Call Sign Was Courage began trending. Ralston, however, remained defiant. He called the allegations smears, claiming he was a real victim of an online witch hunt. His lawyers filed defamation suits. The Navy's silence became complicity. But the public pressure grew. Protesters gathered outside bases. Former officers broke their silence. One wrote, "This isn't about one drink. It's about decades of men who thought women like Talia didn't belong, until they saved them." Talia, against every instinct, agreed to one televised interview. Sitting under studio lights, she said only one line that night. "Some of us fight battles in silence. Others throw drinks when the world watches. The Navy taught me which one is braver." It was enough. The next day, a congressional hearing was announced. Ralston's fall from grace was swift, but not silent. Anonymous threats poured into Talia's inbox. Old military contacts ghosted her, but she stood firm. She had faced worse in silence. This time, the world was finally listening. The hearing room in Washington buzzed with tension. Cameras lined the back wall, flashing every few seconds. Ralston entered in his dress uniform, medals gleaming under the lights. Talia entered quietly, in civilian clothes, her posture steady, unflinching. The chairman read the charges: conduct unbecoming of an officer, obstruction of internal review, falsification of mission logs. For years, Ralston had lived as a symbol of elite valor. Now, he was a case study in arrogance exposed. When Talia was asked to recount the bar incident, she didn't dramatize. Her voice was measured. "It wasn't about the drink," she said. "It was about what it represented. The belief that some men in uniform think rank grants them the right to humiliate those who no longer serve beneath them." The footage was played to the committee. Laughter, splash, silence. Ralston's defense tried to pivot. It was a misunderstanding, a joke taken out of context. Then came the SEAL mission report, unredacted, authenticated, shown to the panel. It proved Talia's warnings, her contribution, and Ralston's deception. The room shifted. The chairman looked at Ralston and said, "Captain, did you knowingly take credit for Ms. Brooks' intelligence work during the 2015 Red Sea operation?" Ralston hesitated. Too long. Cameras caught the flicker of defeat. His attorney whispered something, but it was over. The committee found grounds for dismissal, recommending full dishonorable discharge pending review. Outside, the press swarmed. Headlines screamed, "SEAL Captain found guilty of misconduct. Heroic black officer vindicated." That night, Talia walked home through the quiet streets of Norfolk. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to feel not victory, not revenge, but release. The same bar that had once been her humiliation was now empty, its neon flickering weakly against the rain. She stood by the window for a moment, watching her reflection fade in the glass. No uniform, no insignia, just herself. Weeks later, Ralston's discharge became official. His medals were revoked, his name quietly erased from several classified commendations. The Navy issued a rare public apology, acknowledging systemic failures in addressing misconduct within elite units. Talia didn't celebrate. She turned down every TV offer, every book deal. Instead, she started something else, a program called Project Call Sign, dedicated to helping women of color transition from military to civilian life. It grew fast, fueled by donations and quiet endorsements from veterans who had once been silent. She knew she couldn't change the entire system, but she could create safe spaces for those still caught inside it. Months passed, but the movement she sparked refused to fade. Universities invited her to speak about resilience and reform. Young cadets wrote to her, saying she gave them courage to stay. One letter stood out, from a young black woman in Navy prep school. "They call me Shadow because I'm the only one like me. But now I tell them my call sign is mine to define." Talia smiled when she read that. Meanwhile, the bar where it all began closed its doors, unable to escape the association. The building was eventually turned into a small veteran outreach center by the same nonprofit Talia founded. The irony wasn't lost on her. Where she once stood in silence, others would now find their voice. In the end, she learned that justice wasn't about revenge. It was about reclamation, taking back the dignity stripped away by arrogance, ignorance, and hate. Years later, when asked what her call sign had been during her service, she answered softly, "Courage. It wasn't given. I earned it." And that was how history remembered her, not as the woman humiliated at a bar, but as the one who turned humiliation into movement, silence into strength, and a single act of racism into a call heard across the nation. Because sometimes the quietest warriors leave the loudest echoes.